Millions of people, when hearing the name Mario, unintentionally associated with Nintendo's video game franchise, created by Japanese video game designer Shigeru Miyamoto. Mario has become a legend since the 80s when Donkey Kong game and the first Super Mario Bros. Came out. Since then, he's appeared in a large number of video games. In addition, as mascot of Nintendo, he's also adopted in the company's design and represents it at shows and events. According to Shigeru Miyamoto's interview, when he was younger, he enjoyed comics and drawing comics as well. In the 70s, Italy was the leader in the comics consumption. Or at least in the Western world, Japan was the first in the ranking even then. Italy has also produced many Disney stories. The most popular publications have been translated into many languages. If you think about it, the big nose and the mustache is not a facial feature that's characteristic of Japanese people. As Shigeru Miyamoto thinks, when drawing the first sketches, the actual look of the Mario character had been influenced by the images from Italian comics. So probably this is the reason of Mario's Italian origins. The character first appears in Donkey Kong. In those days he had a name of Jumpman. Because of technical limitations, the character was drawn using pixels in a 16x16 grid. And having such a restricted space, in order to emphasize the unique characteristics of the player, the team added the big nose and the mustache. As this was the easiest way to make a humanoid face out of a limited amount of dots. When the game was sent to be distributed in the US, the landlord of Nintendo's American branch in the early 80s was Mario Segale. Segale was born in Seattle in a family of first-generation Italian immigrants. With his wife, they worked to develop an asphalt and construction business. Segale and his son Mark were also involved in other ventures like Tocqueville area projects. Nintendo began renting one of Segale's Tocqueville warehouses in 1981 to use it as their American headquarters. The staff at Nintendo of America once said that the character of the Donkey Kong game looked like Mario. So they started calling Jumpman with this name among them, and when Shigeru heard that, he suggested to call the Donkey Kong protagonist in honor of Segale. Japanese people were not so much interested in the idea of the characters having Italian heritage beyond their names, at least initially, and were just portrayed as these three floating goofy cartoon characters who lived in a magical fantasy world. Indeed, Mario and Luigi didn't really have much of a backstory or established personalities in Japan for much of their early existence. Americans, on the other hand, have always been inclined to associate characters with firm personalities and cultural backgrounds.
Basta, basta! Take my picture with the internet mamaluca!
And since Italian Americans is the familiar and affectionate archetype in the United States, Mario got his personality and affection and was loved by Americans and later by all the world as an individual and not just an image in a game. When they made an American Mario cartoon series in '89, they made the characters working class Italian American plumbers living in Brooklyn, with various stereotypical attitudes and habits. Another thing Mario was missing to get into everyone's hearts even more deeply was his voice. In the early 90s, an actor Charles Martinet became the official voice on Mario when the technology had reached the point to make it possible.
It's me, Mario! Hello! It's me, Mario! Woohoo! Let's go! Okie dokie!
The first time his voice appeared in a Mario game was in Mario Fundamentals in '95. Although most people consider his debut as the official voice actor for the character in Super Mario 64 in 1996. Martinet thought that instead of making Mario speak normal English, Mario's happy, cute appearance combined with him not being completely fluent in English but instead having a very strong sing-song Italian accent would create a more consistent approach.
You can't go there! It's your turn!
This created a very memorable and charming voice, but it also made Mario a lot more explicitly Italian than he had previously been, even in the American media. Martinet has voiced Mario in all versions of every Mario game since, and his English language voiceover is even used in the Japanese versions of the games. which made the Mario's Italian idea more pronounced in Japan following the release of Super Mario 64. Basically, the long and short of it is that Mario's Italianness has never really been planned by anyone, but sort of organically evolved.